Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Test. Test, test.
Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
CNN projects that LA City Councilwoman Nithya Raman is moving on in the LA mayor's race, and Spencer Pratt is not. The former reality show star, who lost his home in the Palisades fire, launched a campaign to lead the city. He clearly won the battle for clicks online with his anti-establishment message. But ultimately, he lost the battle for the most votes in this overwhelmingly Democratic city. LA is still counting votes almost a week after the election day. The county registrar told me that most of the outstanding votes are mail-in ballots that were dropped in the final days. Traditionally in LA, these ballots break overwhelmingly for progressive Democrats on the left. And that seems to be happening once again. Raman is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, and she is dominating the recent ballot dumps. On election night, she trailed Spencer Pratt by about 40,000 votes. Now she's ahead by about 22,000 votes. President Trump says this whole system is rigged.
Donald Trump isn't the only one who says it's rigged. Elon Musk also says the level of fraud is mind-blowing. Nithya Raman even lost her own district to Spencer Pratt and Karen Bass, but somehow she beat them both by winning 40% of the vote with mail-in ballots. This is something that just doesn't make any sense at all. And if you look here, even J.D. Vance, the vice president, says these mail-in ballots are meeting zero standards. They're just coming in and being counted.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with us. Joe is in the middle of something right now, so I am in chair. Hopefully, he'll join us for the second half of the show today. But here we are. And here that was. Just in your face, blatant, no regard. The election systems throughout this country are completely fraudulent. Everything is upside down because of them. Everything is upside down because our system is upside down. Our system has been taken over. It's been hijacked. And now what we have is just mass chaos in our election system. Well, design chaos, which favors those in charge. The fact that this lady, who's a DSA agent, right, Democrat Socialist of America, DSA, get familiar with that term. That term is spreading rapidly. That term is spreading quickly. That political organization is well funded. It is organized. It's highly motivated, and they are putting and getting candidates on ballots. Okay, whether you like it or not. DSA is a force that needs to be reckoned with. It needs to be addressed. People need to be aware of the Democratic Socialist of America if you're not. Okay, spread the word. Let them know. They are radical leftist Islamists that are pushing their political agenda through our government. How does that sound? The Democratic Socialist of America. It's the same playbook with these mail-in ballots. Okay, somehow mail-in ballots have been going on the entire race in California, and Bass ran away with it. Pratt stayed second, right? And Raman was just chilling down at third the whole time. And then all of a sudden, when Bass didn't need anymore, Raman started to close the gap and then pass Pratt, and then boom, right there. It mathematically does not equate. It makes zero sense. Logic does not dictate. And then you have the media morons out there parroting, oh, it just takes time to count. That's just how they do. They admit they're slow. No, they're stealing the election with fraudulent ballots. There's no safeguards in California. Once they see what they needed, boom, here comes the dumps. Here comes the dumps. Oh, we need more ballots. Here comes the dumps. Right? A couple of weeks ago, it was like, oh, we have 700,000 ballots left to go. Right? 2 days ago, it was like, we have a couple million. Right? Because they understood what the algorithm needed. They needed more than the 700,000. So poof, here they keep coming. Poof, here they keep coming. Poof, here they keep coming. James O'Keefe just did something where he uncovered payments on the street. Right? $2 or $3 paying to register people to vote. James O'Keefe just released a video about that. And they're just hijacking our system. Now, whether or not Spencer Pratt could win the overall race in California, that's remaining to be determined. But in a legitimate system, that dude has a real shot, if not can dunk in California. Because the people in California have done it, have had it. Anyone that could leave California has left. And the ones that are there are either kind of tied to this mental illness disease that we're seeing, or they're economically trapped and they have no chance of getting out, so they got to ride the wave. All right, but this is not normal to see how these elections are playing out. All right, and if you mirror it back to 2020, it's the same exact thing. Oh, well, you know, Democrats and leftists seem to vote more by mail-in ballots, so they're going to get coming in later, and we're going to count them all. Doesn't matter when they're postmarked. Doesn't matter if they're signatures. You need no verification whatsoever. Just poof, throw them in there. And magically, every time these ballots go to one specific group of candidates. They never benefit the other side, right? Never does. Our elections are stolen. And they rub it in your face. It's just blatant. Pratt had a really good chance. Of creating waves in California. The people of California are tired. They are tired. Just like Americans living under leftist policies, right? They are tired. That's why you see the net migration out of blue cities and blue states. Because people have had it. The policies aren't acceptable. That's why majority of people leave in the public school system. The public school system is basically ran by blue states and blue cities. People are leaving the school systems too, right? It's all because of what the narrative and the pressure that's being thrown in American people's face by the leftist agenda. And the leftist agenda is not real. The leftist agenda is being pushed down our throats by selected leaders, not elected ones. Those that have been chosen to carry out the political agenda against the American people, which is stealing of the American people voice, which is putting special and foreign interest above the people of America, right? Which ultimately leads to the degradation of our society across all measures. Okay, do you honestly feel safer today than you did 5 years ago? Do you think the education is better now than it was 5 years ago? Do you think people now have more common sense than they had 5 years ago? Where do you answer all those questions? I think we're shot. I think common sense has been out the window for a long time now. I think the education system's in the trash. I'm a victim of the left-wing wave of equity in the education system. And I've worked in it for a while, so I understand what's going on in the school systems, right? And it's not healthy for anybody. It's not beneficial for anybody. If your kid has a good foundation and you have a good relationship with your kid, you could possibly send them to public school and have them survive in these radical leftist hellholes that have been created. Oh, speaking of that, there is breaking news about Cherry Creek School District. I just want to make sure I get these correct on air here. So yesterday, the U.S. Department of Education announced Monday that it is investigating the Cherry Creek School District, alleging that it sponsors a wide range of racially discriminatory programming. Basically, access to education based on race. Cherry Creek School District. And breaking an hour ago, posted by America First Legal, my law group, they write, the U.S. Department of Education just opened a Title VI investigation into Colorado's Cherry Creek School District following AFL's federal complaint alleging unlawful race-based decision-making and retaliations. So it looks like Cherry Creek got the two-piece. Looks like they got the two-piece in two different investigations coming out of the Department of Ed. Huh. Interesting. But you know, they're doing what's right, the Cherry Creek School District, by their kids. Go figure. But this is what happens when you promote equity over everything else. This is what happens when you promote racism in public schools. You're going to have to get slapped with federal complaints and federal lawsuits. It's absurd that this goes on, but this is what goes on, and this is what needs to be done in order to rectify the wrongs that are going on in these school districts. Call a spade a spade. And like I said before, let's put names to the Cherry Creek School District, right? Sonia McKenzie, head legal counsel of the Cherry Creek School District, is the one that backs these policies, okay? Let's put a name with everything. Sonia McKenzie, okay? Head legal counsel of Cherry Creek School District. She okays these practices, okay? She okays them. She's legally in charge over there. She has to make sure everything that the district does is legally correct. So does she honestly not understand what civil rights are as a lawyer? Which means she shouldn't be qualified to do the job. Or does she understand and just completely doesn't care? Which means she shouldn't have the job of head legal counsel in Cherry Creek School District. It's an interesting kind of spot she's in as a lawyer. Because you have all these lawsuits coming down. Pow, 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 pow. Federal investigations. Pow, pow. So as head legal counsel in your legal department, what the hell's been going on over there? Are you saying your staff has been running rogue? Was Chris Smith running rogue? Could Chris Smith just be the fall guy? Was he running rogue there, Sonia? Or was it just your legal mind, your brilliant legal mind at work, which promoted all this? Only you can answer it. I think I know what the answer is, but I'll wait. I'll wait. Can't wait to see everything come out. But yeah, that is corruption at its finest, because Cherry Creek School District is a criminal cartel. Whether or not superintendents or assistant superintendents have been moved around, whether a couple board members have been reassigned, doesn't matter, because the cartel operates from within. Head legal counsel is still over there. That legal office is still intact. That's a criminal cartel. The equity department is a criminal cartel, top to bottom. And they have an assistant superintendent in the mix. You're telling me the assistant superintendent over the Department of Equity didn't know what the Department of Equity was doing in all this? No, she knows. They've been emboldened to act this way because they have leadership that has told them it's okay to act this way. There's no other way to explain it, unless all these leaders that are getting paid six figures are gonna play that they're incompetent and not knowing what their subordinates are doing, which means then you're not qualified to be doing the job. So I guess you were a DEI hire. I don't know which way. I don't know how they could keep pushing this out and promote allowing to spend seven figures on this stuff in school district when the reading levels of kids in the district are not where they need to be. That they're graduating kids in the Cherry Creek School District that cannot read or write at grade level after graduation, after 12th grade. And they're fighting all these legal battles, millions of dollars, where they're obviously violating civil rights, but they're a criminal cartel. And they're going to keep operating as is. Everything's upside down. Everything's upside down. And it's all back to stolen elections. You think those board members actually elected by the people? No. No, they're selected. They're selected as well because they carry out the political agenda that's needed. Same thing happens in Douglas County. Douglas County balloting out. DPS just lost. APS is also the same thing, lost. Right? But they all operate independently of each other, but they all operate within the same structure, being an organized cartel. The inside protects everyone, right? Head legal protects the mission. HR protects those in charge, regardless or not if they're married to them or not. They protect the shield, right? I was told that in the conversation once, that HR will do anything to protect the shield. And I've seen it. How far you want to go with this, Sonia? How far are you going to keep pushing the line with violating civil rights of students and staff at Cherry Creek School District? How long you want to keep drawing the line in the sand? I don't know. But you know what you're doing is ethically wrong. I don't know how you sleep at night. I don't know where you have a conscience. Just like anyone that acts the way you guys do, with impunity, believing that what you're doing is actually the better good, when all you're doing is making everyone underneath you suffer, run and hide, and you discriminate against. All you do is lower the bar of achievement for anybody. But that's not your goal. Your goal is actually to just make your salary and provide for you and get yours, because you're part of the equity grift. That's all those administrators are at the Cherry Creek School District are. They're all part of the equity grift, especially the equity department. 12-person, 13-person panel. Are you for real? You for real? I wonder what the data looks like on crimes against student populations, race by race. I wonder what that looks like. I wonder if they have a whole bunch of white kids beating up minorities, or you have minorities beating up a whole bunch of white kids over there. I know the answer. I used to be there. I know what happens. If you really want to talk facts. But you'll never say that. You'll come out and say, oh, no, our teachers, but the teachers that are white, leftist, liberal women who empathize and sympathize with your narrative are the ones that are being racist against your kids? No, they're not. No, they're not. It's the system you've set up as a school district that has led to the failure of these kids. Lack of educational standards, taking valedictorians away, lowering the behavioral bar and expectations of all kids. You guys done that in the name of equity. And it leads to the degradation of society, because you get young children now coming from 17, 18 years old, getting unleashed into the world, and they're not ready for the world because they have no adequate skills, because you've wasted years of their lives indoctrinating them with falsehoods instead of preparing them for the realities of life. But once again, you don't care, because you have your $120,000, $150,000 salary. You live in the nice suburbs. You don't live in the shitholes that you talk about all the time about, oh, people are you don't live in those neighborhoods where people are oppressed against. No, you choose not to live there. You choose to live in the affluent areas that tend to be more white, and you choose to move amongst the people you hate. It's an interesting mental disease that these people have that are in charge of equity. right? And also, let's not forget, you have a rotted judiciary that unleashes hell amongst the American citizenry as well. How many violent repeat offenders constantly get released from jail just to simply reoffend on the streets again? It's a never-ending cycle. We could play clips, 3-4 clips a day on this show for a perpetuity that shows you this. And judges are never held accountable. That leads to the degradation in our society. That leads to people feeling less safe walking the streets when they shouldn't feel less safe. It's 2026. And people feel less safe now walking the streets than they did in 1950. Why? Why is that? Why do people feel less safe now than they did in the 50s and 60s walking the streets? Because we don't have laws anymore that are upheld. We don't have standards in society upheld. Sorry, they are. They're only upheld against one group of people. Everyone else can do carte blanche, no harm, no foul. That's why it is the way it is on the streets, because there's different standards. There's that law line. There's groups and people above the law line. That's why people do not feel safe walking around the streets this day and age. That's why my wife double checks over her shoulder when she's with my child and I'm not with them in the parking lots or grocery stores. Granted, she lives with me, so she hears a lot more than a normal person does, but she is growing more aware now because it happens like that at a blink of an eye, because there are random people that have this mental illness, that have not been locked up, that have these violence tendencies, that have constantly just gotten away out of the criminal justice system, especially out here in Colorado. What do? They reoffend and they look for easy targets. Who's an easy target? A vulnerable mom putting a 3-4-year-old child or a 6-month-old child into the car seat, into the car with their back turned. I never thought about it, but my wife explained it to me and it made perfect sense. They're vulnerable. Women are vulnerable at that moment. So yeah. And then you have our politicians and our leaders who get these judges in power, and then our politicians are supposed to hold these judges accountable, right? They could be impeached, they could be removed for conduct, but no one ever does that. So these judiciaries just become an isolated branch of government that no one really likes to address. They kind of do their own thing. They're insulated from it. So they're a cartel. And then our legislators are cartels, because no one ever holds them accountable. Very few of them ever get held accountable. The ones that are actually held accountable probably betrayed their inner sanctity of their agreements, and the pack turned on them. Those are the ones that get hung out to dry, right? Let's go. Like Eon Omar still walking around, just flaunting in our face that she's not turning over documents to the Judiciary Committee in Minnesota in regards to the fraud. Just, hey, no one's going to do shit. And then her own people in Minnesota, right, the Democratic reps who are in charge of the state aren't doing anything about it. They're like, no, it's all good. She's good people, right? So criminal cartel. And she's someone that actually hates this country, believes openly, talked about how shitty it is, spits on it, need to radically change it, all while she is millions of dollars rich, committed fraud coming into this country, and then has the right to talk and openly trash our country. That's what we have to tolerate as Americans. That's why everything's upside down. Because we're supposed to be told that's normal. She's allowed to do this. She has freedom of speech. She has the right to defraud you because of systemic oppression here in America. She has the right to do anything she wants to us. Right? That law line, that cartel mentality that protects those that are above the law line. And then if you want to talk about a group above the law line, let's take a look at Trans-Tifa here. Let's take a look at what happened out here in Denver the past couple days. Let's play cut 2.
I watched my fucking community constantly murdered, beaten, raped, discriminated against, thrown out of their fucking homes. And it's from fucking bigots like these fucking assholes.
Yes.
And you know what? No more. No fucking more. No more.
Get the fuck out of our neighborhood. Get the fuck out, transphobes. Get the fuck out, transphobes. Yes, you are. Yes, you
Whether that's even in our own lives and families, or in the Bible, in the stories of what our God has done. He is a way maker, a miracle worker. He's the God who parted the seas and this song really just tells us that, hey, if he could do all that then, how much more is he going to do now and in your life?
The precious blood of Jesus Christ. God loves you. Jesus loves you.
Little pitchy dog.
Cafe is anti-gay.
Say again? Is that guy in the black with you guys? Like the whole face covering guy?
Did you ask him?
No, I haven't. It doesn't talk.
Why'd you ask me?
If you don't want me to talk to you, you can say no, sir.
No.
Okay, have a good one. That's it?
And I don't appreciate you coming around trying to intimidate us.
No, it's intimidating, sir.
You're dismissed.
I'm just asking.
You're dismissed.
So yeah, that I don't even know what you call that other than a bunch of people with mental illness having a meltdown in the street because there's a cafe that believes God is good. The long and short of it. Like, that's really the long and short of it. The Drip Cafe. Damon, if you have the website, can you put it up so we could look at it for a second just to kind of show our audience? Yeah, Drip Cafe. And it's a Christian cafe that hires the homeless. Okay? They are a Christian cafe that hires the homeless. The Drip Cafes in Denver is not a political statement. It is the storefront of Recycled God Love, a ministry run by Jamie Sanchez that hires and mentors homeless men and women and pours the proceeds back onto the streets. For that, and for being openly Christian, it has been a standing target of a self-described Denver communist group and allied Antifa activists since the day it opened. We're reaching out to the Drip Cafe. We're going to look to have them on next week, but this is absolutely absurd. Someone that's doing something for the homeless through the name of God and faith and restoring humanity and decency and rebuilding humans, doing God's work, is being terrorized by these mental midgets. I haven't seen any statements from Polis or anything on this yet, but this is the type of mentality that the left adopts, and this is what they do. They cheer for death. They look to ruin lives, destroy livelihoods, close down businesses if you don't agree. And for some reason, the Drip existing is a threat to these people. Why? Because reality is a threat to your fantasy? Well, maybe you should start dealing in reality then. Just like we have to operate like you're here and you're allowed to walk around, well, this business is allowed to operate this way. But yet you don't see it that way. You see it as, I have to drive this piece of this business out of my community. Devils. Just evil. How can a community not, if it was any other type of organization doing it, the Trans-Tifa would support this work. But because it's done under God's name, they have to attack it. That's how mentally disturbed these people are, and this is how much they are at war with God and religion. Somebody that is actually doing something for the homeless community to help people, more than you could say about what the city and state of Denver and Colorado do. Actually going hands-on with these people, giving them training, showing them something, giving them faith, giving them love, showing them support, and then takes the money and then reinvests it back into the program. And then they're terrorized outside by these freaks. Whew. But Joe had a short post to put up about it, and I'm just going to put it up there so you all can see it and I can read it. Where are my Denver friends? Want to go protect them? Want to defend good from evil? There it is. Feel free to connect through the DMs or underneath, email, whatever. because and I'm sure Joe's going to have things to say about this as well, but this is just pure ludicrous, and it's allowed, right? Imagine if there were Christians protesting a drag show. Do you think police would show up in no time to clear out those Christian protesters? Absolutely, they would. But yet, this seems to be allowed to go on all day and all night in front of this cafe. I wonder how much business these guys lose a day because of these freak shows. And it's amazing these freak shows could show up. Like, they don't have work, they don't have job, they have nowhere to go. No, they don't, right? Because they're paid by NGOs. They're on standby waiting to get their marching orders daily to make a couple $100s a day. Like, that's what they are. That's how well-funded the leftist shock troops are on the left, that you have stay-at-home trannies on standby waiting for the message to come in to see what business is going to get attacked today. That's how well-funded they are. And it's all well-funded through our tax dollars, by the way. We've been funding these operations for years and years and years. They have stockpiles of millions of dollars, right? We'll see how much of this fraud actually gets recovered and cut off and actually shipped back and put back into the budget to kind of like make sure we're not getting ass raped completely all the time. But we'll see about that. But we fund it. You have stay-at-home protesters that you have these apps and be like, oh, go to this place, make $50 today. Go to this place, make $25. Destroy this property, make $75. Like, they are technically connected and well-funded where they could just zoom, zoom, zoom and make shit happen. And it's all purposely done to make our lives and people that believe our way more uncomfortable. That's all what they want to do, because they want to destroy our way of life. The way of life, by the way, that everyone else around the world strives to come to. Everyone else strives to come here and be here. But yet you have people here that want to fundamentally destroy that because what? They know better? No, right? They have been comfortable for way too long. They have been secure for way too long, and they have been indoctrinated for way too long. They're bored, and they're not mentally stimulated, so they find stupid shit to latch onto instead of being driven either internally or career-wise. Have a purpose within you to do a better good for society. Maybe that's what they think they're doing, but obviously it's not working, and it's not a better good when you're going to protest a Christian shop that's helping the homeless. I don't know how much lower you can get. Is there really any lower you could get for protesting? Oh, also breaking news. Speaking of protesting, Carmelo Anthony found guilty. Boom, first degree. So speaking of which, maybe there's a little lower bar that could be set this weekend coming up with Carmelo Anthony being found guilty, and you have these, I don't even know what you call them, black supremacists outside the courthouse talking about crackers need to die and this is unjust, right? So I'm sure you're going to hear that echo chamber going off for a little bit. I see that the sheriffs were outside the courthouse. Looks like they have things controlled for the time being. But once again, we'll see how this movement spreads during the course of the day into the weekend, right? Today's Tuesday. You got a couple days into the weekend. Those things typically seem to ramp up as we go. But this one, I really don't know how many people could actually get behind protesting Carmelo Anthony's guilty verdict being found here, because this one was just so blatantly bad. This one was so blatantly bad, so unjust, so uncalled for that Austin Metcalf had to be stabbed in the chest and died in his brother's arms on those stands. Because of what? Because Carmelo Anthony just wanted to act a fool that day. Let's call a spade a spade. He wanted to act a fool, right? And also, I'm sure he hasn't been injected with anti-white hate for a long time. I'm sure that hasn't been going on. Hasn't seemed like it. That is a real conversation that needs to take place over and over again, is the anti-white hate that is being pushed across this country that's leading to assaults, raping, and killing of white individuals across this country. It's happening. And the mainstream media refuses to talk about it. If you follow Elon Musk's X account a little bit, he retweets some things from time to time that highlights what's going on in this country. But it's directly tied to the anti-white rhetoric that's been going on for a long time now, since the Obama administration, but definitely ramped up since 2020 and the quench of equity, the thirst to push equity down our throats, aka white hate. That's all equity is. And you see what's happening because you see assaults of high school kids, young children being assaulted by groups of young black men. It's happening. Let's not sugarcoat it. Okay? There are white children being assaulted throughout this country by groups of black children. Why? Do you see groups of white children surrounding black children and assaulting one black children? I bet you if that happened, that would be all over the news for weeks to come. And then you'll see the streets burning. Then you would see the riots happening. But because it's happening to white children at the hands of the black children who are deemed the oppressors based on today's equity standards, those videos are not being picked up in mainstream media, and they're not being broadcast on mainstream media because it goes against the narrative. But truth be told, this is going on in a lot of areas throughout this country, that white children are being beat up by groups of black children, and they feel that they're empowered to do it for whatever reason, feeling disrespected, looked at the wrong way, whatever, righteous anger. And it's allowed to occur. We played a video, was it yesterday or last week, a white girl on the ground being beat up by two black male students because she said F you to them, maybe. But they have righteous anger. It's okay to do this. And then no one interjects because that's what our society is today. We'll record it, get the likes, get the clicks. And there's no social embarrassment for those kids. They don't feel embarrassed by it. It actually emboldens them and empowers them, because then they send that off into their social circle and they get clout. So all it does is perpetuate the hatred towards white people and actually gives positive reinforcement to keep behaving this way. Excuse me. But that's what's going on. And it's not talked about enough, and it needs to be. Violence against anybody, it needs to be discussed. It needs to be highlighted. Like those trans Tifa people talking about violence against them. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Everyone knows not to touch a trans person. Shit, get hate crime, 25 years to life. You kidding me? They are one of the most protected classes, right? If you had the oppressor class struggle, like built into like a triangle, the trans are in the top 3. Right? Everyone knows they're persona non grata. You can't touch them. No one knows no one's assaulted them. No one's killing them. Right? The only ones that's assaulted and killing themselves are each other because they're self-harming and committing suicide because they're mentally ill. That's why they're disappearing. No one's hunting down trans people and killing them, okay? But once again, they're victims in their own minds. They're mental midgets. They're morons. They're mentally depressed. They're not understanding it. And now they're pushing it now, oh, people are disappearing, so we got to protest this Christian place here. No, your people are disappearing because you guys are self-harming and killing each other because you got mental illnesses that no one's actually called you on or offered you support for. Instead, you've just been offered gender-affirming care, which has allowed you to create this false narrative in your head that has led to the degradation of you. And then you want to perpetuate that onto our children. In the school systems. You want to groom our children because that's the next wave of victims for your sick fetish. Brutal cycle we're in. Brutal cycle we're in. But once again, that's all being pushed by one side. That's why everything's upside down. It's being pushed by one side. It's not natural. It's not organic. Right? It's not natural or organic. The American government's at war with its people. And it depends who's in charge at what level of war you're amongst the people, right? Can we acknowledge that under the Biden administration, the government was more at war with its people than it is right now? Trump's got some of it under control. But under the Biden administration, the government was full-fledged at war with its people, going after parents at school board meetings, going after Christian conservatives, getting them censored online, right? And let's not forget to mention the 20+ million illegal aliens that were let into this country. And listen to this clip from Tom Homan walk you through why that happened. Cut 4.
Politicians say, don't take my criminal illegal aliens. Let me keep them. Why would they do that to their citizens?
Well, a couple of things. Number one is about hatred for President Trump. They don't want President Trump to have a win. Second of all, look, where was she with 4 years of open borders, with millions of illegal aliens, many of them criminals released in the United States? Where was she then? She was complicit. She didn't say anything. And this is why. That 4 years open borders wasn't an accident. It wasn't mismanagement. It wasn't incompetence. That was by design. Release millions of illegal aliens in our sanctuary cities. And they overturned the Trump census rule, which means they'd be counted in the next census, which means what? More seats in the House for the Dems. And they're hoping that another Democratic administration comes in and awards amnesty to millions of illegal aliens. This is about future political power. They don't care about national security. They don't care about public safety. All they care about is future political power. They sold this country out for future political power, and she's part of it.
Right, and you mentioned those delaying.
Yeah, and if you haven't been paying attention, it's blatantly obvious that that's exactly what it was. It was all political capital, bringing illegal immigrants in, right? It was allowed to try and get more population count in a sentence, power clout. It allowed for power grab for seats. It also allowed for local power grabs in local elections. Also allows for illegal funding and fraud to occur. All of this was promoted, all at the expense of you and I's every last cent. They willfully did this, allowed 20 plus million illegal immigrants in, right? And if you think about it, how much headway is deportation actually happening right now? Okay, the White House right now has acknowledged that there's around 1.9 million individuals who have self-deported. 1.9 million self-deported since the Trump administration. Okay, so in a year and a half, 1.9 million people have left. There's been an estimated of around 605 undocumented immigrants have been deported. So if you're looking at 605,000 deportations taking place, and this is official White House and ICE estimates that I'm getting, right? This is what I pulled. This is official White House and ICE estimates that's around report that over 605,000 undocumented immigrants have been formally deported. 1.9 have been self-deported. So if you combine the two, you're looking at a little more than you got close to 2.5 million illegal immigrants out in a year and a half. So averaging it out, it's looking that we're having around 1,100 daily removals a day. That sounds pretty good. You're getting 1,100. That sounds pretty good. But the fact of the matter is they were allowing 10,000 in a day. So no matter how hard our people are working with the protest and the delays and the blockades, we're at a net loss of around 9,900 people. I'm sorry, 9,000 people a day. 10,000 in, 1,100 out. So 8,900 a day net loss we're at, right? If you break it down that way. They completely flooded the system purposefully as a political capital play. And it's worked, right? And we had mass deportations going on for a little bit, and then that got squashed. They got squashed. And now I see there's a surge going on, I believe, in New York City. We're going to see how that plays out, see if there's cooperation that's going to be taking place. But it just seems it's impossible to catch up. It seems that it's going to be impossible to catch up to get what happened under the Biden administration under control. Which makes me question, what is it going to look like after the Trump administration? Are we going to look to deport more people? Or are we just going to invite more in? If the Republicans win, I'm assuming we're going to keep the deportations going. But if the Dems win, are they just going to bust the border open again in our face? It'll be pretty disheartening. I wouldn't be surprised if you see people actually take to the streets on that one. Because the border is basically under control for the most part now. It's pretty sealed up. There are still some coming through. They're getting through it. It's not a net zero, but there's some. But it's nowhere near where we're just opening up, taking forklifts and removing barriers, making it easier for people to walk on in. No, that's long gone. Right? We're doing something about the visa fraud that's been going on with Indian workers coming into America, but that also had a net loss, also hammered the American people. Okay? Job losses in the job market, especially in the tech industry, and these people coming over had fraudulent degrees, right? It seems like it was a big racket over in India that people paid very little money to get these Indian degrees that were fraudulent and applied for these visa programs here in America and got entry-level or second-level jobs that could have been for Americans. And also with that came housing. Apparently these people were also given housing when they came over, so access to houses, and then eventually, boom, you have these communities that just flooded. Yeah, man, there's a lot that's been going on here in America. And then we're going to play this one more clip, and then I'm going to see if Joe would be available. If not, I'm going to bring Rich on. All right? But I want to play this clip. Take a look at what's going on in Florida from the Muslim population. Play cut 5.
Go Marhaba is a platform where users can redirect their spending to support Muslim-owned businesses.
The Go Marhaba app, which helps us find local Muslim businesses that we can support, helps us do business with each other and keep our money circulating within the community so we can build the strength that we need to effectively serve our faith and serve our country to be the best version it can be.
So when I heard about Go Marhaba and that they're actually putting this together, a national level business directory for Muslims, so we can actually keep our money in-house and build autonomy in-house.
I want to say one thing. If we do not support each other, who going to support us? Okay, it's like if you are from the community to the community, the best way to do it is to invest with the community businesses entrepreneurship.
I would say it's for us as Muslims, this is a life-saving strategy on the long term. This is the economy power that we need.
We don't have any platform like that right now. So having that platform where you can easily identify a Muslim business, why not?
So if you want jewelry, you look up jewelry. If you want honey, you look up honey. If you want food, grocery, an architect, an electrician, a pharmacist, anybody who is Muslim-owned can list on there, and the community can then circulate their spending to support. So if you're a business owner, make sure you go to gomarhaba.com and you list today. And if you're a community member that wants to support local Muslims, remember to find them at Go Marhaba. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, so that's a real thing. GoMarhaba.com is where you are a Muslim and you find other Muslim-run businesses and you just keep spending money on them. You keep it within your group. So not coming to America to assimilate in, nope, just connecting. We're coming here, we're going to enjoy the perks of it, and then we're going to isolate ourselves and we're going to build our political capital, we're going to build our wealth. Because that's the play at this. There's a little bit more to that video that explains why this is building this way. But it was a way for Muslims to actually get organized economically, than to use that money to build political capital, to put political candidates forward. They're doing it right in front of us. And who do you think this group is going to align with? The ones that it's been aligning with, the DSA. Okay, this is all political power. And this is what's been invited into this country. And then you have other subgroups as well that do the same thing, though. Right? Black-owned, trans-owned. But if you're Christian-owned, you get sued. Or if you have a Christian mentality and you don't want to make a trans cake, you have to go to the Supreme Court. Right? Just attack all around us all the time. But that one I saw this morning, and that really alarmed me, especially that's going on in Florida. And the mindset is to keep our money circulating within the community so we build the strength that we need to efficiently serve our faith. What's the main goal of their faith? We've been talking about it for a while, spreading and conquering. Okay, this is their generational warfare. This is how they play. They know they're not going to win the war with the bombs anymore. But this is the war they're playing, and they're winning, and they're pretty good at it. They're pretty good at it, using the American dollar. Well, because our political leaders are weak and have allowed this type of behavior to go on and to allow this type of mindset to infiltrate America. So our leaders are to blame. And once again, our leaders are put in place by the fraudulent elections, right? So this is all purposely being twisted into America today. None of this is happening in isolation or coincidence, right? It's all coordinated string of events that it is all culminating to certain outcomes. And the outcome that's staring us right down in the face is the degradation of the American society, and that everything is upside down. And until we get our systems in line and rectified where the will of the American people is reflected, I just see spiraling after spiraling after spiraling. And maybe we'll get a win here, which pauses it for a couple of years. But this is a generational long march that Muslims are a part of, that communists are a part of, that the socialists are a part of, right? That are looking to tear down America. And that's why everything inside America is upside down. And that's why it takes true patriots to meet this head on at every turn. And it's tiring. It's exhausting. And there's a lot of ungrateful Americans that just bury their head in and say, like, I don't care. I'm just collecting my paycheck, waiting for my pension, and, it'll be my kid's problem. I don't want my kid to be a victim. Like, I don't know why parents don't understand this more, or care more, yeah, you're gonna die. Everyone's gonna die, but you got children coming up behind you that you're refusing to make a stand for because you're lazy, selfish, and complacent. So you're not gonna care if they become, target practice in 15 years because our government has been completely infiltrated and taken over. And don't think it cannot happen. The Constitution doesn't mean anything if the people in charge don't respect it. And once these people get in charge, they don't have a respect for the Constitution, nor do they care about the history on which the Constitution was founded, because they believe the founding of this country was systemically oppressive and evil, so they're not going to respect it anyway. We're the only ones that respect it. And we're the only ones we're the ones that are going to have to uphold it, our conservatives. The ones that don't want our kids to be target practice when they're in their 20s or 30s. I don't want to see that from my children. And I know you'll be 20. Bullshit, man. I'm going to be 60, 70. I want to see that kid living out his dreams. Okay, his whole way. Not having to question or fear something's going to happen to him because he's a white male. Everything is upside down. And with that said, I want to bring Rich on. Rich, you still there, man? You stayed with me for all that? I think you're muted, buddy. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Rich.
Can you hear me?
There you are. There you are.
Dude, you're spot on. I would just say, though, one of the other groups that I don't think are paying enough attention to, especially this month, are the trans queer activists. And when you see how they've aligned with Palestine, it's really mind-blowing to a lot of people. They can't understand why trans queer activists would align with something like the Muslim ideology. It's because at the end of the day, the same objective is what brings them together. And that objective is the destruction of Western civilization. And they accomplish that by attacking our families.
Yes. And then they don't see what happens after that. Right? They don't understand what happens. Let's say Western society falls. Then who's going to stop the trans community from being attacked because no one's left, right? There's an old saying, no one's left to stand if no one's going to stand to fight for you, right? There's a saying like that. And that's what's going to happen if the fall of our country and Western society happens. Eventually, they will come for the subgroups then. And people don't understand that.
That's part of the whole thing that a lot of these trans queer individuals just don't understand. When you look at a lot of these leftist revolutions that have occurred over time, that the people that have been used are nothing more than collateral damage. And these trans queer activists are nothing but useful idiots. The teachers are useful idiots. They have all of these people that they're using to advance this Marxist ideology, and this Marxist ideology, this radical ideology, the Muslim ideology. This is antithetical to democratic principles, whether it's European. Look what's going on in Europe right now. I wouldn't be surprised if in 5 years we saw Germany was a caliphate. And that is one of the things that we've got to understand. Just last night, I was talking to a young girl from TPUSA, and I said to her, we have to understand that what's going on in Europe, what's going on in Canada, what's going on in Australia is happening here in the United States. But the United States has a constitution, and we have certain rights. We have certain freedoms and liberties that protect us from what's going on. But we've got to fight to protect those rights. And we can see it right here in Colorado. We have state senator like Julie Gonzalez, who is a Democrat socialist. And you talk about this group, and these Democrat socialists are primarying regular Democrats because people like John Hickenlooper are do-nothing Democrats. And the idea behind all of this, again, is to destroy our families and destroy Western civilization and usher in this era that, quite frankly, Senator Gonzalez, I hope she understands she's going to be nothing but a useful idiot, and she'll be the first to get on that cattle car. Because do they think they're going to do they think that these Marxists are going to have any respect for people like her?
They think so because they have the belief that I'm intellectually superior, so I'm going to survive this. They don't understand that they are cattle. They're going to be brought to the slaughter, just not the first group.
Exactly.
They don't see that. They see themselves as being superior, and that's not how it's going to work out in the long run. I don't mean to laugh at it. I know what's going to end for them. And with the trans Tifa, did you hear what happened to the Drip Cafe recently?
Yeah. I'm gonna I have a story of my own about that. One of the first times I ever went out, there was a gentleman that wanted to meet for coffee, and we went over to the Drip Cafe. And I was completely unaware of the Drip Cafe and all of the drama that was surrounding the Drip Cafe. I think they're doing a great thing. I think if you are a privately owned business, you have the right to run it however you want. And kudos to them for taking the opportunity to use their cafe to provide services for the homeless. But I didn't realize that they were being targeted by Trantifa. And of course, you see the videos of the dude that's got his fake breastplate on and he's trying to pretend like he's a woman. And it looks like he's strung out on heroin or whatever the street drug of choice is in that neighborhood. This is literally what they do. They go around and they engage in these fascist techniques to try and shut down anybody, any business, any individual, any organization that does not comply with their assimilate into their collectivist ideology. And that is ironic because they're the ones that talk about love and tolerance and acceptance and inclusion. And they're the ones that will hurl that fascist moniker around. And, oh, you're just a Nazi. But who are the ones that are behaving like fascists? And who are the ones that are behaving like Nazis when they literally shun, shame, and silence anyone who doesn't agree with them?
Bingo. And you would think, too, they're helping the homeless, a vulnerable population that the socialists talk about as a group. Oh, we need to do more for the homeless all the time. They need more resources. They need more support. So you have a private business, yes, centered around God and faith, but doing that work for the homeless, and they can't even acknowledge, they can't even just leave them alone, right? They can disagree and just leave them alone. They can't even just leave them alone. They have to go there, be in their face, and disrupt their business practices. People like that, I have no tolerance. Like, I'm tired of seeing it in society, and then you don't see anything being done. Where's DPD moving in, sweeping the trash out? Where is any of that? Is anyone going to move these people? I doubt they have a petition to organize in front of that business on a public street that way.
Probably not, but they don't think they need one. The other thing that you got to understand is they're not anti-God. These people have God. And what they are what I call Christophobes. They are anti-Christian. They love to align themselves with Muslim ideology. They love to align themselves with this radicalism. And they have gods that they serve. And I believe it's a very dangerous cult, the trans queer cult. They just will attack. But you notice that they never go out and they don't attack but anybody but Christians. That's always what they're going after. And you talk about the Masterpiece Cake Shop and how they've targeted him. There's a bookstore in Denver that's being targeted because it's a Christian bookstore and they don't want to have to be forced to use language and people's names and pronouns that they don't believe in. But that's where we're at in Colorado. And unfortunately, the Colorado Civil Rights Division, if you don't comply with the state government religion and their edicts of preferred names and pronouns, you're going to be shut down and they're going to come after you and they're going to target you and they will put you out of business and you're going to be sent to the stockades.
Yeah, and the side that preaches inclusive, diversity, love, as you said before, is the one that will execute you faster than anyone else.
Yep.
It's amazing. And they use the vernacular. They use the language so well, right, that it conditions people that are not informed to what they're doing to actually believe they're doing good work.
They do it two ways. They do it through weaponized empathy and they do it through verbal gerrymandering.
Oh, can you elaborate that second one for me, please? I like that. I want to hear the elaboration on this one.
Yeah, it's verbal gerrymandering. So, they started it out with things like, what is a woman? And then they say, well, it's not based off of biological sex. And if you say, well, I like to say, if you have a Y, you're a guy. Oh, where'd you get that? A third grade biology book? Actually, I have a doctorate degree in molecular biology, but sure, it's also in a third grade biology book. Anybody who has a cat knows that there is male cats and female cats. But what they'll do is they'll try to shift the meaning of words. And it's part of their game where truth becomes subjective rather than, it's what is truth? My truth. What is truth? My lived experiences. And so that's how they move that. And so now we're talking about two totally different things when we talk about women. We talk about two totally different things when we're talking about whatever they're talking about ideology-wise. And so they continue to move the boundaries on what words mean. And I will push back on this when people say there's only two genders. I say all the time, there are 0 genders, there are 2 sexes. And that was the first time that I can look at this whole gender ideology stuff when they got away from the definition of sex and they moved the definition to gender. And so now all of a sudden now gender means something totally different than sex. So when people say, well, how many genders are there? There's 0. No such thing as gender. There are 2 sexes. You are male or female. And then the other thing that they'll do is they'll sex. So now what they've done is they're starting to say biological sex. Well, I don't even use biological sex because when you say biological sex, it implies that there is a non-biological alternative to sex. And it's not. You, again, are either male or you are female. If you're not female, you're male. You can't be biologically the opposite of what you were born as.
And that's the problem when they run into intellectuals. Because when you boil down logic and reasoning, it exposes just how flawed their side of the aisle actually is. And I remember I saw my birth certificate recently, and I was born in 1983. And on the birth certificate, it had sex, gender, male. They were one and the same. 1983. Yep. I think I'm older than you. But
you're younger than me, actually. I'm a 1980 baby.
Okay. But yeah, and if you see your birth, I believe it's going to say the same on yours. But sex and gender were married on mine. And shit, man, this only has come up over the past 5-6 years that all of a sudden this is morphed into something else. And now bathrooms are now used for people who identify whichever way, locker rooms, athletics. It's just morphed into this different beast that has just... It shouldn't have been given room to breathe, but it has been given room to breathe, and it's because special interest, and there's money to be made from this in the medical field.
Yep. And here's the other example of how they use verbal gerrymandering. What does the word democracy mean? And so when you...
Majority rule.
Majority rules. And what is majority rules? It's the subjugation of the minority.
Correct.
And I just think it's so ironic when you hear Democrats talk all the time about democracy. And so they're literally saying, oh, we got to protect democracy. It's like, let me rephrase that for you, Democrats. You're literally saying we got to protect the subjugation of the minorities, which is ironic when you think about that's literally who votes for them. Yeah. And I want people to understand when they come and they say we're a democracy, we are not a democracy, we are a constitutional republic. But that verbal gerrymandering is done on purpose.
Yeah, it gets people whipped up into a frenzy when, oh, more people like this, then why isn't this happening now? Why isn't this happening now, right? And no, there's levels, there's ways to get things done in our system for a reason, because we don't want that 50.1% in charge to feel that they could do whatever they want to the 49.9% that's not in charge. Because throughout history, when our country was built, we saw how those systems were in place before, and that didn't really work too well for people. We didn't want people to be at the whim of one person or one political party that says, you have to go and now it's time for you to go, meaning kill you.
Yeah. And the other thing that you'll see them do is when it comes to things like rights. What are our rights? What rights does the government grant us is what they'll say. Well, you got to look at the Bill of Rights. You got to say, well, where do our rights come from? And what is a right? And they'll try telling you that we have a right to housing and we have a right to healthcare and we have a right to education. And so once they can move the boundary of what a right means, then they can shift the definition on what rights are. And then they can use that weaponized empathy against people to start saying, we're fighting for our rights. Well, what, Pride Month. I want people, anybody out there want to tell me what rights I don't have? What rights?
Well, actually, the argument is rights have been taken away.
What
right?
Rights have been taken away?
I can't, in some states you can't, well, the trans community can't go into certain bathrooms, and in certain sports they can't, in certain states they can't compete anymore. But as far as
whose rights have been taken away? The trans community, or the women's right to consent, the women's right to privacy, the women's right to safety, and the women's right to dignity? Is that the rights we're talking about? No, we're not talking about those rights. We're talking about the rights of men in a dress. We're talking about the rights of men. And so that's where we're going to go with this. This isn't about, and it's not a right. You don't have the right to go into someone else's private space. It's like, this is insanity. You don't have the right to sterilize and mutilate a child. You don't have the right to strip that child's health, fertility, future, and pursuit of happiness from them. That's not a right.
No. And it's the only, and let's call it what it is. It's gender dysphoria. It's a mental health issue. It's been classified a mental health issue, but yet it's the only mental health issue that we affirm. If someone wants to commit suicide, you don't give them a loaded gun.
Why are we affirming it? Who's profiting off of it? The big pharma?
Cheddar. There's cheddar to be made. There's money.
There's a lot of money to be made. So you got big pharma, you got the medical industry profiting off of this. And I just really find it bizarre when you talk about that. And, it was one of these trans queer aligned individuals who shot a United Healthcare CEO because, oh my gosh, they're profiting off of this. Well, yeah, they're profiting off of it. And this is really something to think about when you start thinking about all of the money that's being made off of this. The World Economic Forum is behind this. WHO is behind this. The World United Nations is behind this. All of this stuff is designed, again, targeting children because in every leftist revolution, they've used children to tear apart families and destroy society.
Yeah, and there's big money to be made on the kids also. You got curriculum that's designed now. You have whole books and publishing companies that are designed to promoting this filth into the youth. It's pretty damning. And what is frustrating is I don't see actions being taken to safeguard the children. Unless people are just saying it's the parents' responsibilities. But here's the thing, right? People want to go after social media because kids are on social media and they want to blame social media for allowing kids to view certain materials. How come the same concept isn't being applied to publishing companies that are doing this stuff, putting this
With the
stuff?
books.
Exactly. Why isn't that same logic not being applied?
I have no idea. And I want to point my finger for a moment and wag my finger in the face of some of the Republicans here in Colorado and the people who call themselves, they're conservative, they're pro-liberty, they're pro-parent. Okay, look, I'm a candidate. I don't know if I can say that right now, but I'm running for office. And I have traveled to every single county in Colorado. I was a proponent on the Girls Sports Initiative. I spent months of my life down at the title board arguing for girls' rights against people like Mark Bruskin and Teresa Conley and some of the most corrupt Democrats the state has in power. And I spent my time as a man with no children, with no dog in the fight, fighting for other people's freedom and liberty and for these girls, right? So all of a sudden, I find that these same people that once said they had my back are out there online on social media attacking me and coming after me. And these are supposedly conservatives. These are supposedly Republicans. They're supposedly people who champion these ideologies. And it's disgusting. And I'm going to call it out. They know who they are. And I have found that there are PACs that have been set up and money is going from one person to the other person and back to the other person. It just seems like it's a big, giant money laundering operation. And these parental rights and these gun right groups that are in Colorado who are attacking other conservatives because they're not conservative enough or they're not doing the right thing by them and they call it accountability. I'm just going to say this. I really am at the point where I don't believe that these groups and these individuals actually care about protecting rights, and they sow this chaos and they do this and they attack people because at the end of the day, if we actually solve these problems in Colorado, their grift would come to an end and they would no longer be able to profit off of the chaos that they sow.
Yeah, and the big problem with the Republican Party, especially here in Colorado, from what I've learned just recently coming to the party, working for Joe, getting some behind-the-scenes look of what's happening, the infighting is just absurd.
It's disgusting.
The backstabbing, the lies, it's absurd when we're all supposedly trying to fight this evil machine here in Colorado. And honestly, it is an evil, corrupt machine that has many layers to it, many tentacles, many points of like they have a very well-funded, rounded infrastructure here. Our side needs to be as well organized, cohesive, not infighting, not backstabbing each other, because we need the collective together to take that machine out. And it's just frustrating watching this happen all the time, all over the place with good people that I've come to know because of the work I do here, seeing shit happen to them for no reason from people on our side. It's infuriating to me.
Yep. I'm not afraid of the Democrats. The biggest attacks that I have come from these people who call themselves pro-liberty warriors in Colorado. And I mean, fine, if you want to attack me, that's fine. I don't have to step up and run for Congress or for the state legislature. I don't have to volunteer my time. I don't have to be a voice for this. But these people who they're basically keyboard warriors and so-called social media influencers. Look, at the end of the day, if you want to see the Democrats win that hard, just go register as a Democrat and knock doors for them, because that's basically what you're doing at this point in time. You're not holding anybody accountable. You're not helping anybody. You're actually harming the very cause you care about. And like I said, I think they do it on purpose, because that discord that they sow keeps their grift going.
Yeah. And what's more important than anything else is the personal grift, I've learned, for people. More people are concerned about the personal grift to line their pockets than to do the better good. And it's sad. And then that's go ahead, Rich.
They're not using their PACs to give me any money. I haven't heard of a single candidate up here in my part of Colorado who's gotten any money from these parents' rights PACs, these gun rights PACs. And you know what? At the end of the day, these little gun boys that are over there at the Capitol and these parent rights groups, I would love to see you succeed, but you're not going to do it by attacking the very people who are supposed to be in your party and the people who have had your back. Look, at the end of the day, this isn't about me. Everything I've done has been about protecting the children that I don't have, protecting the parents that don't show up to the school boards to fight for their own children. So if we really want to take Colorado back, it's time for all of these people to stop fighting. It's time for them to stop accusing other Republicans of whatever they think they're doing. I mean, I love to see what people say about me online. I live a very interesting life, apparently. I just am not aware of it. But, look, this is where we're at with the Republican Party in Colorado. This is where we're at with the grassroots group in Colorado. And this is why nobody in their right mind would step up and run as a Republican candidate in Colorado, because you're going to get your butt handed to you by your own party. So until that happens, I think that Colorado is a lost cause. I'm going to continue to fight. I'm going to continue to do what I do, because I believe in protecting parental rights. I believe in protecting the children. I believe in protecting our Second Amendment rights. I believe in fighting for the First Amendment right. I'm getting ready to file a writ assert with the U.S. Supreme Court against Julie Gonzalez and other Democrats, because they wanted to force me to use preferred names and pronouns at the Capitol, and I wouldn't do it. I'm going to continue to do those things. And I don't care if these people who are supposedly out there fighting and saying they're doing all these things are mad at me because I'm exposing their grift and I'm exposing them for what they're doing. I'm not here to protect relationships. I don't care who gets mad at me. If you're mad at me for speaking the truth, that was a relationship that was never worth protecting to begin with. I'm here to fight for the people of Colorado.
Ooh, I wish I lived where you were running, man. You got my vote. I wished I lived where you were running. You're up north, correct?
I am. Senate District 25. That was Faith Winter's district, and now it's William Lindstedt, and he's also a DSA appointee by the governor. And so at the end of the day, these pro-liberty warriors who are attacking me, would you rather have a Democrat socialist in office, or would you rather support me?
How's it looking up there? What's your vibe? I know ballots have went out. What's your take?
I absolutely believe this is a winnable seat. The numbers are there. For us to take back Colorado it's just a matter of 35,000 total votes across the state of Colorado. Total votes. For us to be able to flip Colorado, make it red, is 35,000 votes. Everybody keeps putting all of their energy into the gubernatorial race, but I'll tell you what, we could fix Colorado right now if we flip the Senate, and flipping the Senate is only 6 seats. It's a lot easier to do, in my opinion, than the governor's race. 6 seats in the Senate, and we put the brakes on this train and we stop it. And, Senate District 25, if you want to know about my campaign, go to richforsd25.com. I definitely need the support, whether you're a volunteer or a donor or just sharing out what's going on social media-wise. But I'll tell you what, we got to get behind all of the candidates. We got a whole area up here in northern Colorado. And as I'm talking to people, as I'm knocking on doors, I this morning was out visiting businesses in Broomfield, I talked to them and they are telling me the same thing. The regulatory climate in Colorado is making it so hard for businesses to survive. I think the 100 businesses that we've seen leave that's just the tip of the iceberg. When I talk to families and they're saying, I want to buy a home. My husband and I just got married. We want to start a family. We want to buy a home. They can't afford to buy a home. The American dream is out of reach for the younger generation. I talked to the older generation and the homes where they raised their children. The homes that they worked and paid off, they say, we don't know if we're going to be able to keep the home that we own because the property taxes have become too much and we live on a fixed income. That is criminal. And that's exactly what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting to get rid of these regulations. I'm fighting to protect the taxpayer Bill of Rights. I'm fighting to protect families. And look, it's not just about young people saying, I want to have a home where I can raise my children. They want a safe neighborhood. They want schools where their children are taught ideas, not ideology. And that is exactly where I'm at.
And I think 80% of the state's with you, man. It's common sense. And
but we can't win when we're being attacked by Republicans, and the Democrats aren't even bothering. They're just looking at us and laughing. They're like, they're doing our work for us.
And that's the thing. They take it for granted out here. They don't give a shit, right? We got overturned in the Supreme Court. What did the state legislature do? A day or two later?
Yep.
What did they do a day or two later? Changed a couple words in the law. Boop. Ship it right back in. And that's how they play because they'll play the long game. Okay, we'll get this passed. We'll get this into place. We'll see whoever takes us to the Supreme Court in 3 to 5 years, and maybe they'll take it up. Maybe they'll reverse it, right? They're not operating in good faith whatsoever, ever.
And these Democrats that are in office, and let me just also let people know about 30% of our state legislature is appointed. They're not elected by the people. And we have one of the most historic opportunities in the state of Colorado right now. We've got a massive number of seats in the Senate and the House. It's one of the highest numbers we've had in about 40 years up for election. We got to get out and we got to vote. That is one of the things that Democrats do well that I think Republicans should be ashamed of in the midterm elections. Republicans don't vote. How on earth do you get a ballot delivered to you in the mail and it sits on the counter for 6 weeks and you don't even bother to fill it out and turn it back in? That is inexcusable. You do not have a right to sit around and complain about what's going on in Colorado if you don't vote. And the midterm elections and the local elections are what matter. What's going on in Washington, D.C. doesn't affect you as much as what's going on under the Gold Dome in Denver. That's why I've stepped up and I said, I'm going to run. That's why I put myself out there. I put myself under scrutiny, and I'm willing to say, I don't care what people say. I don't care what people think. I am going to do this because Colorado needs common sense. We need hope. We got to protect parental rights. We got to protect our families. And the trans queer agenda, I'm living in Adams County. Adams County commissioners put out a pride proclamation. The city of North Glen put out a pride proclamation and had a pride fest. Broomfield, there is a whole bunch of books. You can go on to my social media and see I did a video on it. There's a whole stack of books that I grabbed that are LGBTIQA plus books geared to children. So I did a whole bunch of books that are in the Broomfield Library. Your tax dollars are paying for it. They have drag queen story time with a teacher in Adams 12 5-star schools. Miss Shirley Delta Blow, Shirley not a euphemism for anything, goes out and reads these books that are talking about queers and about these people who are Harvey Milk and Marsha P. Johnson are legitimate pedophiles. You can look that up. It's historically verified. And we're teaching our children about this. Why are we teaching children at the age of 5 and 6 years old about this type of stuff? That is some Jeffrey Epstein stuff going on.
Oh, yeah, no, you're doing this to normalize it at the young age for them so that they're relatively primed in their middle and high school years for the shit show that goes on in their school systems.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It really is. And we had, have you ever heard of Basil Baz? Have you heard of Baz before?
Yep.
We had him on yesterday, and he brought this up, that it's just basically a renewable resource. And that's why they started at such a young age to just start indoctrinating and grooming kids at this young age, just so that they could start picking them off as they come up the line. And they just get the talent pool re-upped every year with a new cycle of kids that get entered into the school system.
There's never been a better time to get your kids out of public schools. And again, the thing that we've got, this is such a hard thing to tackle in Colorado. Colorado Educators Association is the most powerful union and lobbyist organization at the Capitol. and they literally advocate. I've got a documentary, it's on Angel Films that I'm in and I've done, and it's called The Death of Recess. I'll be showing that here as a fundraiser for my campaign right before school starts up again. What we really need to understand is the National Educators Association is a big force behind a lot of this stuff. And if you can desensitize children at the age of 5 and 6 to things like sex and sexuality, it makes it easier for them to be preyed on as teenagers.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we see again and again and again. Look how many people in Jeffco schools have been, staff and faculty in Jeffco schools, how many of them have been arrested in the last few years because they're preying on children. This has to stop.
There was I just saw a recent post. I wonder if I saved it. But there it is. Head of security at Jeffco schools reveals there's a huge uptick and spike in parents, staff, and students reporting grooming behavior and sexual misconduct. That was on the Libs of TikTok's X page yesterday, right out of Jeffco public schools.
It's a daily occurrence with Jeffco schools. And you know what, I'll tell you, it's not just Jeffco. I know a mom down in Pueblo. I got a mother in Julesburg. I've heard about it in Durango. It's all over the state, small, big, it doesn't matter, red, blue. It's happening in your school district, and you just probably are not aware of it because the school district is trying so hard to cover it up. Look, Cherry Creek, Denver Public Schools, Adams 12 5-star schools put out a whole statement about pride and making an inclusive space for children.
Yeah, they all do. But how does that really make it inclusive? Because if there's people that disagree with the message, aren't you excluding them?
It's verbal gerrymandering.
You got to get a T-shirt made up with kind of the definition on the back. I think there's headway here for that, because that's a very accurate term, and I like the way you explained it here. I might actually steal that.
Take off with it, man. The more people become aware of the tactics used by the left, you know, it's kind of like the art of war. We know what their tactics and we know what their game plan is. Now we can go in there and we can cut them off at the pass.
And I used to work for Cherry Creek. I used to go through these equity trainings, and there was a training I was in where the position of the equity partner, which is the position of the district, is only white kids can be racist.
Yeah.
And I asked, well, why can't a black or a Hispanic kid be racist to a white kid? And the answer is they don't have societal power. So the language of gerrymandering there, where the same behavior for two groups is different just based on the color of the skin. And
then they want to say that they're the minority. Well, globally, what is the percentage of white people globally?
It's been coming down. I know that. Do you know it off the top of your head?
It's something like, I think it's like 12%, and I might be too high on that. But yeah, it's not. We are a global minority population-wise as white people. But they never want to talk about that. And then they want to bring up the slavery and powers of dynamics of power and influence and things like that. It's a dominant culture thing if they really wanted to frame it accurately. But again, verbal gerrymandering.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because there's so much history, honest history about how we got to where we are that can be taught to our youth in an honest and fair way that don't divide our kids, but we can't do that. The education associations won't do that. And I used to do work with CEA, by the way. I'm not proud to say that, but I used to.
We can forgive you.
But I know how they operate from the inside, man. It's crazy. Now that I'm removed from it and thinking back about the trainings I went into, like, shit. It's eye-opening.
It's really offensive when you start thinking about it, too, because, you know, there's a report that I think I saw some statistics out of Poudre School District. They were touting their own internal data saying that I think it was more than 51% of their school students in their school district up at Poudre Schools, and I don't have it quite, so don't quote me on this, but identified as LGBTIQA+. Well, I mean, obviously it's easy to identify as LGBTIQA+ when TQIA+ means absolutely anything and everything, and yet at the same time it means nothing. But when more than half of your school district students are identifying as LGBTIQA+, are you still a minority? Do you still have the protections and the rights and all of that other nonsense that comes with minority populations and oppressed populations? I don't think so.
I would agree with that. I would think not as well.
I mean, now that's the straight white kids that are the minority.
And now, and how it should work is that there should be supports built for the straight white male kids at schools now to make sure that they could adjust and feel welcome in an environment where they're not the dominant population. I wonder if that's going on up there, if they really fit the equity mold.
I don't know. They're still too busy putting litter boxes in the school or whatever. I don't know, keeping the furries happy. Maybe we should ask if we, since straight white girls are a minority, can we get single stall bathrooms for the straight white girls where men aren't allowed to go?
Yeah, it's sad that even has to be brought up for discussion this day and age, but it really has to, because those students need to be protected and need to feel safe when you go use the bathroom. Let's be honest, or go to a restroom. It's crazy what some of these students have to go through. It really is. I feel bad for them. I really feel bad for them. And it's sad to watch when we're supposedly such a progressive state, progressive society, but yet we have biological women that are scared to use restrooms and locker rooms that are designed for them because of the policies that the state has in place.
Yep, and that goes back again to the weaponized empathy. We're going to talk about protecting the rights of confused boys and confused girls who think that they can change their gender, but we're not going to talk about protecting the rights of boys and girls who don't want to have the opposite sex in their private spaces. We don't want to talk about protecting the rights of boys and girls under Title IX, which is biological sex. And this goes beyond the classroom. This goes into the workplace too, where we have Title VII. Why aren't we talking about the fact that women in the workplace are having their rights violated and their privacy violated by these autogynephiles?
Great point. Great point. Because it's bad for business to put these stories on air. It's bad for these stories to pick up traction. It's bad to see a trans male in a woman's locker room yanking it in a stall. It's bad when those videos come out. Did you ever see that at, I think it was LA Fitness? Did you see that video?
It was Planet Fitness. Another Planet Fitness one. Yep. I would just say Planet Fitness. If you have a membership at Planet Fitness, get rid of it. You're not safe there if you're a woman. But the other thing that I would just say too, it's not just, again, verbal gerrymandering. You'll see these stories that come out like in U.S. News and World Report and in the news every once in a while. Especially among the liberal news and Democrats, love to say we got to solve the gender pay gap, right? How do you solve the gender pay gap when gender is fluid and a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man and you can be a cat or a dog or anything you want to identify as? How do you protect women's rights when you cannot even define what a woman is?
Liberal logic, checkmated. It's the same thing with the my body, my choice with the vaccine argument in 2020, 2021, right? When people are like, oh, it's supposed to be my body, my choice. What do you mean? You can make me stab myself? Right? Yep. I think that was that was a big wake-up call for a lot of centrist or even left-leaning people at that point in time.
Again, though, it goes back to verbal gerrymandering because they're trying to use the my body, my choice to talk about reproductive health care, right? Now in Colorado, one of the things we've got to really open up our eyes to is the fact that reproductive health care now also includes gender-affirming health care. So sterilizing and mutilating children is now considered reproductive health care.
Oh, my Lord.
And Planned Parenthood is one of the biggest providers of that for children who need to get access to cross-sex hormones or puberty blockers.
And we
can get it we pay for it, and they can get it without parental knowledge or consent.
We pay for all of it. And we played a clip a couple weeks ago of a trans person giving an interview, and they're out here on Medicaid out in Colorado, gloating that they got a boob job for free at the taxpayer's expense. Like, we're legitimately paying for cosmetic surgery on mentally ill people. That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. How are we here? You got to win, buddy. We need some people in the legislature. We need some people in the legislature.
I will fight like crazy to stop this stuff, but I'll tell you what, it's not just me. There's a whole bunch of us that are running for office, and we desperately need your help. And you can, again, go to my website. I would definitely appreciate the contributions, signing up to volunteer, sharing out the social media posts. One of my big things right now is to celebrate Colorado's 150th anniversary, which is in August. I am doing something called Colorado 150, 150 fees for 150 days. And I was shocked when I started thinking about this idea. I was like, are there really 150 fees that I can talk about? Oh, buddy, are there? There's way more than just 150. I could go on for a full year talking about the fees that were being charged in Colorado. And these fees are nothing but a runaround on the taxpayer Bill of Rights. And it's driving up the cost of business. It's driving up the cost of living. It's, here's a perfectly good example of it. 2 legislative sessions ago, Colorado's legislature passed laws changing what the requirements are for roofs in Colorado, stating that because we have so many roofs that are damaged to hail and wind in Colorado, it now has to be constructed out of these materials and meet these building code standards. Well, that increased the average cost of a roof by about $15,000. So if you had your roof replaced, it was going to cost you $15,000 more. This last legislative session, these brilliant Democrats came into Colorado as the session and said, well, we're going to introduce this legislation that's going to impose a fee on your homeowner's insurance. And that fee is going to go into a fund that I'm sure will always be used just for its purpose, right? And that fund is going to be a grant. And when you have to replace the roof, you can apply for this grant, and maybe the state will give you the money to help offset the cost of replacing your roof. Only in Colorado can you come up with a scheme where you spend more to save more. This is what the Democrats think. If you pay another fee on your homeowner's insurance, we'll maybe give you money in a grant to help offset the cost of the roof that we made you put on your house that cost more. It's mind-blowing, the mental gymnastics and, again, verbal gerrymandering that they're using to convince us that we should pay more to the state of Colorado to save more.
And this is the product of who's in office, right? It's people that, honestly, on that side, don't typically have business sense, haven't really lived or experienced life. If you look at the political landscape of the Democratic Party that's sitting in the State House right now, they don't have, I would say, the knowledge on how to govern, on experiences, or how to balance a budget, or any of that. They're spoiled brats or DSA agents or plants, really, that have no idea how to govern except on feelings and emotion.
That's exactly it.
We had a budget surplus in the billions of dollars, 5 years ago? And now we're in the deficit as a state.
Yep. We're operating with a structural deficit in Colorado.
Yeah, and there's no way of... Have you seen a plan of how we're reversing course? Have you heard about any cutting of spending or ways to kind of rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic before the economic bailout?
And we keep growing the spending. We keep growing the taxing. And that's one of the problems is I just want Coloradans to know when you head to the ballot, you don't head to a ballot box. When you head to your dining room table or wherever you fill your ballot out at home, understand that you aren't just voting for the people who are going to represent you. You are voting for the future of Colorado right now. And this structural deficit that we're seeing, this $2 billion in debt that we're seeing that is going to continue to grow, we didn't get there overnight. These regulations that are driving out Colorado businesses, these fees that are driving up the cost of everything that you buy in Colorado, we didn't get there overnight. And we aren't going to solve this problem overnight either. If we took the state legislature and the governorship this election, we would not be able to go into the state capitol and wave a magic wand and make that debt disappear. There are going to be hard decisions, and it's going to take time to undo the damage that has been years in the making. So we need you to be patient, and we need people to be in this for the long haul. And again, when we talk about freedom and liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I'm not just fighting for my life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I'm fighting for the next generation's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And we need everybody to ask ourselves, what is that worth sacrificing?
And that's something a lot of Americans don't like hearing, that word, sacrificing. We're used to having everything easy, handed to it. We've gotten used to it. We've gotten lazy. We've gotten complacent. But I believe there are sacrifices that are going to need to be made economically. Like, and we're going to feel the brunt of it when government makes decisions if they're going to rectify the budget ever. But we will feel the brunt of it. We feel it now every day. We're losing half our money to taxes, fees. Like, it's insane when you actually, like, you see what your net income is. And when you actually, like, do a budget and break it down where every little thing goes, a little fee here, your toll road fee here, you know, late fee maybe, a parking ticket, invoice for this subscription here. It's amazing how you're basically left with little to nothing. But
it's going to
if,
get worse if we don't change course.
And if we keep doing what the government does, eventually I would be homeless. I can't keep spending money I don't have, right? Like economically, that won't work. And our government the Colorado state government refuses to cut off any type of entitlements to anybody. Have you seen a cut on entitlements to people that maybe should not be collecting that cost a lot of money?
No. You know, and I see it up here where I live. We have certain populations up here, and I just wonder, like, how do you take advantage of the system like that? Meanwhile, our own veterans don't have the healthcare, mental health care, or resources they need. And I think that's criminal also. I think we really need to make our priorities taking care of Americans and Coloradans first. And I'll tell you the other thing that we got to really have a conversation about. We're not going to fix any of these problems unless we fix our elections.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's becoming, I think more and more people are waking up day by day that people like, no, people aren't voting for this shit. People are not voting for these radical crazies to take over or these Islamic extremists to take House seats or city council spots or run for mayorships. Like, it's nuts. And people are becoming more and more aware of it. Like, yeah, something's going on here. Something's going on here. And hopefully the lever gets pulled and we start seeing some accountability, because we need to start getting our voices back. And more Americans need to start getting more aware of what's occurring and become active in the fight. Because if you're going to sit on the sideline and be complacent, you're going to become a victim in all this.
You are. And you know what? You're going to look one day and you're like, how did I lose my family? How did I lose my home?
Yeah.
This isn't passive. This is an active assault on our constitutional freedoms and liberties. And the time to get engaged is now. And when that ballot comes in the mail, fill it out. You know, honestly, I would only need a few thousand votes if every single Republican in my district voted. This comes down to that. I don't even have to touch the Democrats. I could reach out to a few unaffiliated voters and say, hey, I'm running, and I would win in a landslide.
Well, let's work on this show to keep getting you elevated till Election Day. I appreciate you staying on with me and hopping in because Joe couldn't do today, but I definitely want to bring you back so you and Joe can hammer away at Colorado politics. Because you're a great guest, man. You're a good guy. You got a good heart. You're in the fight for the right reasons, and you articulate your points very well. I appreciate all of that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you too.
Easy to converse with. Thank you. Rich, would you mind praying us out today?
Sure. Father in heaven, we are so grateful and so blessed to live in a nation like the United States of America, where your hand guided the founding fathers and the people who gave birth to our nation. And we recognize those rights that you endowed us with, and those inalienable rights that come from you. We ask, Heavenly Father, for a blessing upon our nation's leaders, for President Trump, for the Speaker of the House, for the Vice President, for their families. We ask for a blessing upon the people who lead our state. And we ask, Father, that you will pour out your blessing upon this land, heal this land, and guide us in our decisions as we fill out our ballots. May this nation and its people turn to you, and may we elect righteous people who will be filled with your Spirit and seek to know your will and to do your will as representatives of the people in the people's house. Father, we ask for these blessings. We give thanks for our blessings, and give us the courage that we need to continue to fight for the principles of freedom and liberty, so that the beacon of light that our nation is can continue to shine across the globe. And this we say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Beautiful, Rich. Thank you so much. All right,
for having me.
well, absolutely, man. Anytime. We're going to get you back in a couple of weeks. I'm going to make sure Joe's butt's in the chair. Maybe we can get you down here. Would you want to come to the studio too?
That would be great.
Yeah, we're going to make this happen. We're going to make this happen. Oh, man. Great guest. Thanks, Rich, so much, man. Very insightful. Very insightful.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. Joe should be in chair tomorrow. That's the show for today. Class dismissed.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Tame nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave